Hello, friends. Welcome to a very special Marvel movie talk where we've got a really low key, late night kind of vibe here. Now, if you're one of our many audio listeners, there's absolutely nothing different about this week's episode. Oh, but for those of you out there in TV land, we're going to let you inside and we're going to walk around and we're going to have fun. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk After Dark. I am indeed your host, the master of ceremonies. My name's Christian Bladt, and let's see who else is around. Oh, would you look at that? Right here is, of course, Mr. Late Night himself, David Brody. Now be careful because you don't necessarily want to wake him up, but we appreciate it.
Hey, what are we doing?
And of course, forever married to the rose-colored glasses and classes is our friend Count Eric Conner. Oh, hello. How are you, sir?
Adam's hands ready to play. Late at night, my friends, ready to play.
And we, of course, have our friend Nate Miller with us. Nate, thank you for being here. And
Absolutely.
I had this idea that this episode, because of logistics for myself, we were going to have to do this late on Tuesday night, although not as late for the three of us as it is for Brody. But because I'm traveling tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's a Marvel Movie Talk After Dark. I'll use a little backdrop of, oh, there's Hugh Hefner. And from the old Playboy After Dark show. And then what a happy accident that it turned out to be the black and white ball for the mayor. So it was a fancy dress party all along. And I'm excited to talk about this episode. Now, not everyone is excited about Daredevil Born Again. I'm on a text thread with someone who I will not identify, but the phrase that I heard from this person was, "This is the talkiest ass show." And then there's 30 seconds of something happening. And it's been compared to needing to be a nap. Now, my thinking is when you think about some of the best television, well, there's a lot of talking. If you've ever watched anything that Aaron Sorkin did, oh my God, there's a lot of talking. Severance is one of the biggest shows. Boy, that's a talky show. I don't know. I'm enjoying this. I feel like it's been over the last month or so. They amped it up a little bit. We talked last week. Last week was what we call a bit of a stumble, but I feel like they have been building on a great trajectory the last few weeks. It makes you appreciate the, yes, admittedly deliberate, possibly paint-drying pace of the first few episodes. But I'm in for it, and knowing that next week is going to be the finale, I'm excited. Mr. Miller, where are you on this, sir?
Why me? Why are we starting with me?
Because I always have a hunch.
Surprisingly, I enjoyed this episode a lot more than I was expecting to after the last one. I thought it was pretty good. It's frustrating because this episode being good makes the last episode being not as good stand out more. It just really feels like you can see where the rewrites happen, like where the stuff that they kind of used some stuff from before. It seems like the Muse stuff was like an early plot, and that's why it kind of was truncated so much. And they decided to bring back Bullseye and add in this like different layer to the crime plot. It seems like that's kind of what ended up happening. So overall, for an episode, I enjoyed it. It definitely is very talky, but to me, it felt like good talky, like of the characters I cared about were talking.
Yeah.
And I feel like we got some really good character moments, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that we really got to dive in on the characters we care about. And, unfortunately, the spotlight was shared with Michael Gandolfini, but we're supposed to realize what a putz he is.
Gandolfini, remember, he's officially right. Gandolfini in this room.
Gandolfini.
Gandolfini.
And our friend in the chat staying up late, just like Brody, Daniel Drew points out this episode was intense, and I didn't know what was going to happen next, and we still don't know what's going to happen next. We'll have to wait till next week. I love this so much, though I do wonder what the finale will be like after all caps. That intriguing. And by the way, also where it's not quite as late. It's only midnight in Chicagoland. Kame Egan, thank you for being here with us. Daniel, we'll dip into some of your other comments there. Mr. Conner, I wanted to get your thoughts on this episode, episode 8.
My year of the Daredevil continues. This has been so much Daredevil all at once, and so I'm
everywhere.
It's all over my world right now, man. I mean, look, I've been wearing this for 3 months now, and I haven't been able to see a red light since 2024, and that's okay because that's apropos for the entire effing world right now. I feel like this show is patient. This episode, maybe lacked in fights, but then Bullseye shows up, uses his own teeth as a freaking weapon, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. I agree, Nate. You could see the sort of stitching of the rewrites here when you look at the season as a whole. The tiger came and went. Muse was there and then wasn't, then was back. But that all being said, I feel like this is an example, though, where the re-edits, reshoots, rewrites, re-everythings, I actually really helped this retread of the show and reboot. And it really is a very different creature than it was as Daredevil. I know we've talked about they rebrand so they don't have to pay people as much, but this is a rebrand. This is a very different show than the original OG Daredevil from a few years back. And I've really been enjoying it. I look forward to this, even if I didn't have to watch this late at night, right after one meeting into another. I would keep watching this thing. I find the acting is a cut above, and this is really what Marvel TV could be and should be. Perfect is not, but it has been a great ride.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Daniel did some research as always. And Daniel says that I learned that episodes 2 through 7 are a mishmash between old and new footage. Episodes 1, 8, and 9 are all after the restructuring and using the team that is working on season 2. They fully reshot the whole pilot, so the premiere episode of this. And he adds that so other than the first ep, this is the first kind of feel of the new creative team. So that it's good to kind of have, I guess, those numbers there and kind of understand how it all fits together. Mr. Brody, I wanted to get your thoughts here on episode 8, which apparently is called Isle of Joy.
I loved it. To Nate's point, coming off last week, I loved it even more because of how much I didn't love last week's. Kingpin going full white suit Kingpin was terrific. I thought all of the nods to the buzzing sound whenever Bullseye was getting upset about something, and the blue motif whenever he was there, everything was blue, and when Daredevil got shot, everything was red. Really enjoyed that extra focus. And when he was looking at the prison bars, and then in the ballroom scene, the walls were like columns that looked like prison bars when he was above them on the balcony. And if you remember, I think it was season 3, the last time Vanessa and Kingpin danced, they were interrupted by Bullseye also. He was wearing the Daredevil outfit. So it was a lot of throwbacks to the old show. The teeth thing, from what I understand, is where he spit the tooth at the cop, was right out of the comic books. So I love that nod to the comics. I did find that to be, and we'll break it down more, but I found that to be a trope, the visiting the guy in jail thing, and then he gets you to beat him up, and then he escapes with that part I thought was a little bit cliched, but other than that, I thought the acting was great, the plot was great, the use of swordsman, I feel like he's going to play a role in episode 9. So there was a lot of foreshadowing. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on who's going to die next week, because someone's going to die. I'm convinced.
Taskmaster and Ghost.
Very good.
No,
They're dying
that's
so early in Thunderbolts. They're dying now. No, he's
They
right.
bring him out, kill him.
yeah, that's
and
a
then send
month.
him.
That's a month from now, Eric. That's not.
I got my
gonna-
ticket, so it counts.
I'm
if,
ready.
If I were to check with Vegas Sportsbook, I think I would probably put my money on Vanessa.
Yes, 100%.
Because of the pain it would cause Wilson, and also because Matt realizes she needs killing. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. And yeah, I mean, I think that this is definitely one of those episodes where it's really just a few bullet points of what happens, but this was not one of our particularly short episodes. The listed runtime was 51 minutes, which is probably more like 45, but it felt like a real TV show, not like those 32-minute episodes we get of this and some others. So I think that it's very interesting to watch sort of their dynamic. I would say that Wilson bringing Vanessa to see Adam and Adam's hands. Once they were like, I was surprised that he brought her there, but once they were there, I was like, oh, she's going to have to shoot him, isn't she? Because it's really the only way out of this. As someone who identifies as and is very close to Adam's hands, Eric, I wanted to start with you with sort of that plot point. And, obviously this is the soonest that we're ever doing the episode. And I forgot that I usually put some warnings on this to let people know that we are indeed talking about all the spoilers, and apologies to anyone who knows that Adam is no longer with us. And we know how people feel about Adam. Adam's obviously, he's like family to us, but not anymore. So, Eric, your thoughts on Adam and his hands?
Well, I do love that even, in the throes of everything going on, Kingpin's still like, I can't stop focusing on his hands. So it's like, obviously the hands have touched him as well, in a different kind of way. And I do think like, yeah, this was how it had to end, right? I promised I wouldn't kill him. And so Vanessa's like, all right, well,
he's like, look, Vanessa, I haven't killed him. Aren't you proud of me?
I've gotten better. I'm a good boy. Don't beat me.
Yeah.
It really was like that.
Oh, yeah. And then, and that scene, I absolutely loved it. I did a few screen grabs of it. Is like her killing him, which, yeah, I think it wasn't shocking, but it was still cool. And I love the way they filmed it. And then them embracing in the background, you see his dead body.
That was tremendous.
Oh, fantastic.
His head was in the opening under their necks, under their chins. Yeah.
That was like a singular image. And even like watching him really freak out in that scene, that his delivery of shut up might have been like the most visceral thing from an actor who's filled with visceral moments over his whole career. In that moment, I was listening in headphones and it actually made me jump a little. But yeah, this was a really terrific payoff. And I love that he kept Adam alive for the whole season.
Yeah.
He lasted, none of us would have imagined. Well, you're right. Well,
really he almost made it. Yeah.
But I'm proud of Kingpin. He made a promise and he stuck to it. He's a good boy. Nice boy.
Yes, I do think that it's very interesting, and Adam clearly is like trying to figure out if there's any way out of this. Like, obviously, when he first sees Vanessa, he's like, "Oh, thank God, I'm not at the mercy of this guy." But Daniel was not surprised at all, since the moment of her walking past the painting was in one of the trailers. Oh, that's true. But also it makes sense in the narrative. So yes, I do think that that was interesting to kind of watch it play out. So it is, look, even seeing it coming, it doesn't make it so that it's not startling as it happens in the episode, to actually watch her do that. And that really prepares us for the revelation that she had Foggy killed. Again, it says on the screen with all the spoilers. So we're talking about the spoilers, even though the show's only been around for No, it's not even 4 full hours because you need 51 minutes to watch it. Nate, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, sort of this, where we're at with Wilson and Vanessa in this episode, as sort of by the end, this moment with Adam and his unfortunate hands is really pivotal. So far as her telling Heather is like, yeah, I don't think we're going to need to see you anymore. We are good. We don't need you. Give me your thoughts as to, what you were thinking as we were watching this unfold over this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wasn't like super surprised that she killed him, but I was kind of surprised at how the major conflict that they had between the two of them was resolved essentially in that scene. So then with the rest of the episode, it did make me concerned for her surviving, given that, Kingpin is able to get kind of like a personal win for him to kind of like overcome this thing that they've been stuck on for a long time now. And I feel like that's going to come with then a loss after that. So it was like really cool moments, like Brody said too, like that shot with like him in between them. Like I feel like these, we'll see, I guess, with next week, but seeing this episode again definitely had a lot more of the visual language that like the first episode had.
Yeah.
A little bit more of like a comic book feel, I would describe, in terms of like some of the angles and some of the shots. Like we'll talk about the party later, but like
yeah.
that
Yeah,
kind of
I'm just throwing in that Daniel says exactly that. A lot of shots,
exactly.
comic panels.
There was quite a few times when in my head I could just see the comic panel between the dialogue and the way the framing was. It was just like it just felt really good. I'm like, yes, this is Daredevil comic on screen. This is great. But I think specifically with Vanessa, like I think that the parallel too that they were creating with Matt and Heather versus Fisk and Vanessa, and kind of like, Fisk is having this moment of where he is kind of bearing everything to her, like letting her be aware of like his darkest side, and that he's trying to kind of like be better, but being very, very vulnerable and open with her, which obviously contrasts Matt with Heather and him closing up and keeping these things from her that's causing this kind of dissonance within their relationship. So I thought like writing wise, it was really cool to kind of continue this parallel between the two characters. Yeah, and like I love Vincent D'Onofrio, and like he's been great in all of this as Daredevil, as Kingpin, before and now, but I think in this episode really like we got to see a really good range of the character of Kingpin, with like a little bit of rage, a little bit of kind of tenderness, a little bit of that like authority mode. Like I think he really kind of, especially I think the white suit really set it off, but really fully embodied the comic book character to me. So yeah, I think it was really cool, that interaction like between the two of them. It really developed the characters.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do think that we got so much from Fisk, from him talking to Swordsman, from him talking to Heather. And why do you think he's so interested in masked vigilantes, and, just sort of all of these things, which that ties in, Brody, to what we were talking about last week, that if she didn't know, she was starting to really think like, this isn't really adding up. There is one piece that would fit into this puzzle, and that would be this blind guy being Daredevil. But let's talk about Brody. Let's talk about Fisk and Vanessa, and how you don't need marriage counseling if you're willing to commit murder together.
Well, as she said, the problems have been buried. It's all in the past now.
Correct.
And literally,
Great line.
Yeah, she buried the past. To me, that only because it happened just yesterday or the day before. I get a White Lotus vibe from the ending of that show to what's going to happen next week on Daredevil. And I feel like when a romance looks like it's all set and people are talking about long term, something's going to happen. And my prediction, going on the record here, Heather finds out about Daredevil, breaks up with him, and because of her hatred towards vigilantes, I predict she ends up either working for or eventually dating the Kingpin. I think she becomes a therapist for him or helps him understand vigilantes. And because he's against vigilantes and she is almost militant against vigilantes, that she replaces Vanessa in his life, which also, to me, doubles the fact that Vanessa is a dead woman.
You're lining her up for a real Harley Quinn vibe, basically. So there could be something to be said for that. The Ray Infinity Show. Kingpin is going to reveal Matt as Daredevil at the end of the next episode. I think that that could entirely be possible. I think that there's a world of difference between characters where you're going to say, hey, this blind lawyer is Daredevil. It doesn't have the impact as if you were going to say, Bruce Wayne is Batman or Tony Stark is Iron Man before everyone knows these things.
Or Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Well, no, but Peter Parker is not really a huge public figure unless you read bylines of the Daily Bugle really closely, and you go like, oh, you mean that gent who has every picture of Spider-Man that's ever been published since 19...
Oh, agreed. I was more making the reference that it did happen in his movie where they outed him as...
Right. No, that's a good point. But I think that I could see Kingpin, sort of not keeping it as a secret, but I don't think it has the impact it would for other characters. But I do appreciate the fact that Ray's thinking about that. And to Brody's point, Drew says Kirsten is one of Matt's strongest past loves in the comics. So sure for Heather heading out. I mean, I think she's on her way out. I could see her dying as well. I don't mean I'm saying I could see either or. I can't imagine Vanessa and Heather both dying. I don't feel like they're going to clean house because Karen's already barely in the show. You can't just like, oh, we're going to kill off all of our female characters.
Or what you got to make room for Karen next season though.
Right.
What were you going to say, Eric?
Or Karen comes back, a single bullet goes through all three of them at the same time. No more women.
Wow.
No more women.
You're sitting on that, yeah.
Can we get the little white tiger girl and make it a foursome?
No.
She's a child. She's a minor.
Yeah.
She's going to be a superhero soon.
That's fine.
Time jump.
Look, if you're talking about using bullets and putting people in front of them, which, by the way, we do not advocate on this show.
No.
But to not even have Michael Gandolfini in the conversation just hurts me a little bit. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't see this guy being someone like, oh, second season, we obviously need more Gandolfini. Like, I think, I think the woman's going to kill him.
I resent you guys for forcing me to defend this man's acting.
Yeah, well,
Nate, you make your choices in life, my friend.
Look, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. This is a perfect character role for him because like the character that he's playing is supposed to be kind of like, oh, I just kind of nepo babied into this role. Yeah. Like, it's on the nose casting, but it's not that bad.
Well, I do think, to your point, Nate, that what he's giving us is what's presented to him on the page. I think that this is the case. I mean, look, I think that there are probably a couple of directors that be like, yeah, let's do it again, and then they get the exact same line reading, and they're like, all right, I mean, let's just move on because I think that this is what we're gonna get, but clearly. He was cast because this was what they wanted. And I did like the fact that we're seeing more outwardly that the BB report, BB Urick is, very upfront about the fact that she's using him, saying, I got to go back to work. Like we knew it, but she actually said it out loud. And we'll talk about her in a moment. But he's been promoted to deputy mayor of communications, or I wasn't quite sure what that title was because it sounded to me like assistant to the regional manager. So I wasn't quite sure what to think about that. But Look, I think that there's something to be said about this is clearly a world where you fail upward spectacularly, and I'm talking about this Daredevil world, not the real world. But you can you can look at either way.
Although Daniel would definitely say some shit in a signal chat. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. But I look, I don't disagree with any of that. So I'm sort of wondering, Brody, to Nate's point, as much as I don't enjoy watching him try to act, this is what I feel like. This is clearly the narrative that they're telling, and there's been the theory that yes, he's not Wilson's son, but he's like a son, so he could end up being the character, the Rose, which I thought would be very interesting. And when this episode started with the flower, I was thinking something to do with the Rose, but apparently not, at least not yet. But what do we think about this young man failing so spectacularly that if Matt hadn't been so quick, he probably would have been the mayor at the beginning of next episode, Brody.
Yeah. Well, he Kingpin did call him the future of the city at one point.
Yeah.
I as much as he had some ideas about social media and at the in the first episode about getting him good press, it was the fact that he knows he threatened BB into coercing her into writing the story that Kingpin wanted, that said to him, this guy is not only loyal to me, he's willing to use force and intimidation to get the job done. And that's why he said, I want you to handle this, this, and this, because he knows that he's determined, he's loyal. And if he has to threaten somebody or say, I'd hate for anything to happen to your city, he's going to do that. Yeah. Right. I'd hate for anything to happen to your pretty bridge. So, as far as to his acting, as far as Gandolfini's acting, I had a similar conversation on the Brooklyn Boys, my other podcast, about Honora. If you saw the movie Honora.
Yes, I did.
Mikey Madison was playing every woman I grew up with in Brooklyn. So to me, it's not Oscar worthy. To me, she's playing every ditsbag girl I grew up with in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. And I'm not impressed by it. Right. So, but if you're from Alabama, you might watch that movie and go, wow, that's a great character she played. To me, she's playing everybody that played it naturally, right? She's playing every Rosemary and Maria that I grew up with who didn't have to be that good at, so I think he's playing a role that we look at as a stupid kid from Staten Island, but in real life, he doesn't sound like that. So he actually may be doing a decent job acting, to Nate's point. We just look at it as a dope, but that's because we recognize that person as a New Yorker that we all grew up around. So he's like, oh, he's an idiot. But in real life, he's not an idiot. So I guess he's good at being an idiot. So,
I think I understand you more than I ever have in the few years that I've known you. Then right now I understand, like, oh my God, you grew up going to a high school filled with strippers. So no wonder every girl was just like her. I'm like, no wonder. By the way, Mikey Madison doesn't talk like that. But to me, it's not difficult to play that role. The dumbest people I grew up with sounded like that without trying.
Right. So thoughts.
Let's try to get Lindsay Lohan in her prime to play that. What were you going to say?
Well, two things. First of all, I now want to do a shot-for-shot remake of Honora with Brody as Honora.
I am in. I am definitely in.
I would fund that.
Oh yeah, the Kickstarter campaign.
I'll do it
tonight.
What are you doing in my freaking house? This is my house.
Let me see you dance, Brody, dance. And then the second piece is, if that's every girl you grew up with in Brooklyn, I'm now very mad at my parents for leaving Brooklyn and raising me in Delaware instead, because none of the girls I went to school with were like her. And
all
now
you
I
have
feel
to do
gypped.
is watch Saturday Night Fever and see what I was exposed to. Tony, I love to watch you dance. That's what I grew up with.
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino. Hey, don't touch the hair.
On top of my hair and he hits it. Sorry.
Well, yes. I don't want to always make it look like I highlight the chat that agrees with us. But Constantine James, he's finishing a thought, is especially considering especially considering Daredevil season 3, this season of Born Again is awful. I don't know. Look, I'm looking at it as the 8 hours we have so far. I've got high hopes for episode 9. I think detractors, the first few weeks, I understood what they were saying, that it was slow, but I always had the faith that it was building to something. And clearly it has built to something. Is everybody going to be happy this time next week? Probably not. But I have definitely been enjoying it. And I'm sorry that Constantine has not.
I think it's this season is a good indication that we're going to enjoy season 2. Considering how good they made this season, considering how bad it was going to be, I feel like a whole season of this team is going to give us a really good season 2.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a very good season considering some of the Marvel shows we've had. Don't compare it to the Netflix Daredevil because that was iconic. Compare it to Secret Invasion and Echo, and you're like, oh, this is a great show. This is better than She-Hulk. It's a really good show, and I think they did the best they could with the material they were handed, and they said, fix this. And I think they fixed it, and I think season 2 will be spectacular. Constantine.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree.
I think
Go ahead, Nate.
They, just the fact that Marvel had the good sense to watch what they had and get feedback and say, this is not going to cut it, we need to adjust this, is, for me, that's a good sign that they're even willing to do that. And then for them to do that, come up with this season and then greenlight a second season before it's even aired tells me that they feel very confident in this episode 1, 7, and 8 enough to like that they know for sure it's worth the investment for them to propel into a second season. So I think the finale, I've got a little bit of high hopes. I think awful is a little bit of a stretch. It hasn't been amazing, but again, like we've said before, yes, it's a continuation, but it also is a very different show, tonally, budget-wise, and also time-wise. Like, a lot of years have passed. Television has changed. The actors have changed. You have a completely different crew. So it's going to be a very different show. It's very hard to compare them. But I think awful is a bit of a stretch. The middle was not fantastic. I think given even the fact that they were able to, I'm assuming more or less, keep that middle bank Warner episode shows that there was at least a glimmer of good in that first cut, which is why they probably kept some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think now that the show has figured out what it is, they've got the recurring cast back. I'm assuming the finale doesn't totally blow, I'm already looking forward to the second season. Yeah. All of the signs are lining up for it to look pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. And our friend Daniel says, secret what? Never heard of it. Yes. Thank you. I forgot.
Yeah, keeping it a secret. Yeah.
Yes, that rule 1 of Secret Invasion is that we don't talk about Secret Invasion. Ray Infinity saying the anti-vigilante task force through New York is eventually going to work its way uptown to Harlem, where, as we might recall, Luke Cage was running the town at the end of season 2. I would have liked for them to have pulled on that thread. I would have liked to have seen where that went. Who knows? Maybe we will
Iron
get to see it one day.
Iron Fist coming back, guys. You better watch yourselves.
This would be an excellent way to kind of do that Defenders thing, but maybe like a little bit better and tie in all of these other ground heroes that we know are like kind of MCU canon. We aren't exactly sure yet, but a whole New York task force that's tasked with vigilantes. Like, if we're talking about MCU, it should be teaming with people for them to do cameos. Like, I don't expect Spider-Man, but there's a lot of things that are fair game, especially the kind of Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. Like, give the guy another chance.
Let's get Rhino in there somewhere, man. I mean, we need more Rhino.
Well, no, the only time you want Rhino is when it's Paul Giamatti. So we all know that
we can only have Paul Giamatti Rhino if we can also have Jamie Foxx Electro as well.
Great. I would sign up for both of those. And I agree with Daniel. I still want a Heroes for Hire team-up show. That was one of the things that I thought we were going to get. One of the best hour, probably the best hour featuring Finn Jones as Iron Fist was the episode of Luke Cage with him. And we got to see them together. And I was just like, yes, this is the show I want. I don't want any of this other stuff. This is what I want. I want Heroes for Hire. And then we didn't get it. But.
Well, and I think also, this notion of the sort of ground heroes, like street heroes. Obviously MCU is getting just so much more cosmic as it's going. I mean, Secret Wars, Doomsday, Fantastic Four. So the notion that at the same time as a sort of a, alternate programming, you have one that is a bit more grounded, the one that doesn't rely as much on multiverses or any of this sort. So I think there is a good spot for the Defenders to get back into action. I think them versus a vigilante task force would be a kind of a very organic way to get them back together without it feeling like here's a greatest hits of the Netflix shows. So now Iron Fist, and I know that actor recently was like, I'm pretty good. Give me a chance, please. But the other ones were fantastic, and I don't think anyone out there had an issue with the other performers. So
No.
bring him back. I mean, what do you got to lose?
And look, where we're left, Colleen Wing has the Iron Fist. So if they choose to make that choice, they don't even need to rewrite anything. That's where we were. So I would like to see that at some point. But as we talk about the task force, we in passing mentioned BB Urich, and it was a very pointed moment earlier in the season when the commissioner said to Mayor Fisk, "You're going to regret this, making me stay on." And I haven't forgotten that, and clearly the commissioner hasn't, because it seems like it could very easily be all the dominoes tumbling over because the press got involved. And we see her admitting, she's like, "Oh yeah, I know the Kingpin had my uncle killed." And so I find her to be a more interesting character with that reveal. I think we kind of knew what was going on, that she wasn't necessarily what she seemed. And doing the story where it's like, oh, and the task force killed Muse was more means to an end. She didn't actually think that. And we knew she didn't think that. So I'm very interested in sort of seeing where that goes. The task force telling the commissioner, "We don't answer to you, we answer to Fisk," I think is probably very telling for the way that I believe that story will be wrapped up in a nice and neat little bow at the end of episode 9. But I'm wondering, what do you think, Brody, as we're sort of watching the wheels slowly start to be in motion with him talking to the press and still having a very large chip on his shoulder?
I thought they did a nice job of showing him not being able to stop Powell by the fryer, sort of emasculating him as the commissioner of the police force, right? But I like the wheels in motion aspect. I thought he was very foolish in taking her business card in public when all of the vigilante cops are around, and they clearly showed one of the officers see him take the card. I think you're marking him for death, or at least an attack on him, because they know now he's going to be working with a reporter. He has secrets. They need to get rid of him. Now, that being said, does he put a bullet in Powell's head in episode 9? Oh, I could absolutely see that happening. Like, "Oh, you don't answer to me? You're damn right you do." And then shooting him like, Clint Eastwood style. Sure. I feel like he may have a redemption arc. So perhaps they try to kill him and they fail at it. I just thought it was foolish of him that he wouldn't say that, "I can't talk to you here. Find me or we'll talk later, but don't take her business card." Who the hell has business cards anymore anyway, that she'd have, "Here's my card with my email address on it"? I mean, nobody does that. You send your contact via phone. You tap your phone. So that was, to me, that was an old school way of marking him with the cops. To hand a business card in 2025 seemed out of place to me. And so I think that's going to come back to play a big role, that they saw him take the card.
Daniel's pointing out that was the officer North looking at him. He has a possible future side switching. And I do think our friend Cherry may be very much involved in sort of whatever ultimately happens with the task force, assuming that, Katie felt very confident that he wasn't going to make it out of the season alive, and she may very well be correct. But Eric, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what we're starting to see the commissioner's like, oh, by the way, I got files on all these, all these wiseacres.
Right.
You want to know what you want to know. What do you think, Eric?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see 3 or 4 of these sort of major supporting characters not make it to season 2, because there is a lot of people that if Fisk really wants to, show his iron fist and just take over the whole thing, like, yeah, you would get rid of the old police commissioner and maybe BB, and maybe who I apologize, I don't remember the title for the woman who is now no longer a fan of Gandolfini.
Is she the chief of
Oh,
staff?
Sheila.
Sheila, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of me also thinks Sheila might try to get him killed. Sheila never seemed like a killer type, but as we've seen in this show, the 2 women who, at least as far as we could tell, never directly killed anyone before in the last 3 episodes, each of them killed someone. Vanessa and the therapist, Heather. Thank you. So, I mean, I think like there's going to be a fair amount of people offed. And also, for those who watch The Boys, I don't want to spoil anything about that show.
Everyone dies.
Well, the end of the last season, the way they've set up things for next season, I think like it could go along lines, right? The idea of you are now the hunted, right? You basically are being rounded up and thrown to jail, thrown to camp. So I think like they're really setting the table nicely for basically like now all of our heroes are just constantly on the run, which I'm pretty stoked about because it really does make them full on vigilantes if they can't ever really come above ground.
Yeah, I think that I think that there's a lot of moving pieces, I guess. Nate, I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in on sort of the politics of a police force might not make for good superhero content, but when you have a deputized sort of renegade wing who is supposed to take out what we're tuning in for, our masked vigilantes, it certainly could be more interesting. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on all of this, Nate.
I have a lot of thoughts, but to condense them, I think it's always interesting to me when superhero stories kind of try to tackle the themes of like abuse of power and the ideas of like special vigilante task force type thing or something, right? And it creates this kind of interesting paradox because on the one hand, like we root for Daredevil, right? But on we root against the special task force. However, it's a very blurry line that separates the two of them. We understand morally Matt as a character is approaching it from a different angle, but also, the cops, they're all like these corrupt cops that already had like some dirty stuff, but I'm sure in their minds they are the good guy. So it creates this kind of interesting dilemma. And so now inserting within that this division between the cops of now you have this chief of police and kind of seeing how something that is supposed to be a tool for good for society can very easily be kind of manipulated, and that the safeguards that are put in place to kind of regulate those things can be disregarded when the people who are putting them who are responsible for maintaining those safeguards are the ones that are breaking the safeguards. So I think it's very interesting that they have chosen to tackle this, the just idea of like political corruption, and it just kind of goes hand in hand with the plot line they've chosen of Fisk becoming mayor. But I'm really glad that they're not shying away from it. They're not just kind of like being like, oh yeah, Fisk is the mayor, and so now he gets to do crime and like he doesn't really get in trouble. Like we're still really seeing him kind of get involved in the political game and like make alliances as well as threats and like disappear that one rich couple's husband or something.
Yeah.
Apparently
Artemis's husband is missing. Yeah.
And the way that they talked about that, like that whole scene was awesome, but the way that they talked about that, that was very like, that was the Kingpin, like of we made some snarky comments the last time we saw them, and now she's just, and the way that she was like trying to play it off of like, oh no, I didn't say anything, like that's terrifying. So I think it's really cool that they're showing these levels of power dynamics and how, especially this like reversal of when Fisk first took power and the chief was like, yeah, well, good luck because I'm gonna get my cops. Like, I still don't trust you, and you're not going to be able to control us or whatever. And now this penultimate episode, we've seen him totally emasculated. Like, all of these cops that he has had to deal with, already had problems with, now that already have a chip on their shoulder against him, are in a position of where they can ignore his authority and kind of rub it in his face. And so they are setting up an extremely volatile concoction that's going to explode in some way. I'm really interested in how the writers have, like, what their kind of conclusion to this is. And I feel like this is definitely going to lead, we'll probably look back on these first two seasons as kind of like a part one, part two thing, I think, especially since they were kind of written and then filmed like right after each other.
Right.
But I think we're going to get more of a cliffhanger ending, and all of these like politics lines, like the docks he wants to build, this like relationship with these donor families and stuff. Like, I think this is still going to carry over to the next season, because there's a lot of depth to it. They're not cutting corners. It seems to be really well thought out. So I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, no, I definitely am. And, it's always interesting because when you're, going through fiction and you're dealing with the police force, you're always looking for, in some cases, like Gotham City, somehow Jim Gordon is actually the only good cop in the entire city, but you believe that he's the good cop. And so when you're able to have kind of the idealized, like, oh, okay, well, he's one of the good ones. It's tough though, because the way that we were pitched to this police commissioner, he had to stay on because of his affair. Daniel Drew says, I mean, that one cop said to Matt at the courthouse that he sees his friends as good cops. They believe what they preach. Yeah, that's just sort of agreeing exactly with what you're saying.
And also, there was that whole thing with like the Punisher tattoos and like the
Yeah.
cops like embracing that, which they didn't really expand upon. So I don't know if that's something we'll see more of later, or if that was kind of what ended on the cutting room floor. But yeah, absolutely, they view themselves as kind of these heroes, and that's also what makes it interesting. Like, they don't. They make a point to mention that they don't count Punisher within these like vigilantes that they don't like because he's not wearing a mask. So for them to also get this gear and be cops and do this vigilante stuff but not wearing a mask, they feel like that morally puts them on the right side. So they're
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. It's like, well, no, we like him. He's one of the good ones. Daniel Drew is asking also, do we think Frank will be in the finale since Matt could be out for a bit? It might be tough for Matt to stand up and kick everybody's ass in that ballroom. I would be surprised if we didn't see Frank, but if we do, it's only because of bigger and better things in season 2. I wanted to turn our attention to Bullseye, Mr. Poindexter, who, I'm sorry, but every time they mention him, all I can think of is Buster Poindexter, David Johansen, hot. And that is not who they are talking about in any way, shape, or form. Instead, we do get to spend time with Bullseye. And I think this, even though, he's carrying out, an assassination in the first episode, we really get to see him being Bullseye for the first time this season, sort of using little bits, in this case, his tooth to his advantage. And I thought it was definitely interesting to kind of have him meet with Matt. And my thinking was that he was moved because they knew that Matt would go see him, and they knew that Matt would rough him up, and they knew that would give him an advantage and get out. But then Wilson seems to be a little concerned that because his guy is like, just tell me he's dead. Nope, worse than that. He's coming for you. What did you think about how Bullseye got used, Brody? I know that when we've spoken about Daredevil from the comic books, from the initial Frank Miller run, Bullseye is very much a part of that, Bullseye and Elektra. So I wanted to see how you felt Mr. Poindexter was feeling hot on our screen.
Well, putting him in Gen Pop was a way to get him killed.
Yes.
The fact that he's not bruised at all after a day in Gen Pop is surprising to me because they should have, especially with his hands bound, he should have had his ass kicked. Because you notice when they put him in the cage, they made it a point to say, "Here's your new home, Agent Poindexter."
Right.
Poindexter, yeah.
They let everybody know that he was a law enforcement guy. He should have been destroyed on the first minute when they put him in there because the cops were basically saying, "Here, kick his ass. He's an agent." The fact that he wasn't, he's like, "I could be dead tomorrow." He should have already been dead or roughed up. He should have come in bloodied at that point. But to me, that scene is a cliche. I want you to beat me up so I can pick your pocket. I want you to beat me up so I can, that's it's done so many times where they pick a fight so they can manipulate it in some way. The same way Joker did in Batman. He was, he got the guy to come close, and he antagonized them. And again, when he went to the dentist's office or the guy to stitch him up, why weren't his hands bound?
Yeah.
Why would you leave him like, just regular, like, whatever he had on his hands? It wasn't the super thing around it. Why would they take that off? That didn't make any sense to me. And then he does the bullet thing was great. I mean, the tooth thing as a bullet spit, that was great. And, using the cop's uniform to get out, but nobody noticed the prisoner was missing. He wasn't in his cell. Nobody noticed the guard was no longer like, it was all very convenient that he got out. Fine. He got out. And then he knew where the ballroom was, where the party was going to be. And he clearly used the fork in the kitchen to take the gun away from one of the cops in the balcony. That's how he got the rifle. It was all very easy.
I really wanted him to throw the fork at Fisk.
That's what I thought. I thought he was going to throw the fork, but then I realized he must have used that to take a weapon away from somebody.
Right.
He definitely killed somebody.
A crossover with Mystery Men is what I'm here for, right?
Right.
And just let me throw in. Daniel agrees with you. Why weren't this was earlier in the chat? Why weren't
I thought they were? Wait,
in
but
the infirmary?
Maybe I'm crazy. I thought they were. I thought he had something on them.
No, it was tied up like with bandages and stuff. It wasn't the super thing that was on him when he met Matt.
Yeah, it's not as much as
it's not that right. It's not that.
Now. Yeah, and that
because he was able to immediately break it off and then start throwing scissors or whatever he threw. So, I don't have him in the first thing if you're not going to have him in the same thing in the second scene.
I think the first thing is unique to the
visiting
interrogation room.
Oh, that would make sense.
Or not interrogation, interview room thing.
But he's
I know he's dangerous and there's a lot
of
weapons in there.
Enhanced supervision, right? They made it a whole point. You're under enhanced supervision. What, I mean, we all saw it coming. Why didn't they see it coming? That being said, I need to see him in the bullseye outfit, like the real bullseye outfit with the bullseye on his head. Yeah. Yes, the real. No more of this bullseye-esque thing.
With the Colin Farrell.
That was literally the next thing out of my mouth, Nate. It's like,
yes, I want the target on his head. I want the real bullseye. So I like the character. He escaped way too easily. He got to the party way too quickly. But it's a TV show, so what are you going to do? But why was he looking to shoot Fisk in the heart? He should have shot him in the head. Like, if you're going to shoot the guy and you never miss, you should have shot him in the head. But,
yeah,
other than that,
I was initially assuming he was there to kill Vanessa.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
At first I thought, and then I thought maybe he's going to kill Heather accidentally because they swapped. Yeah. So then I was like, oh no, Heather's going to die. But then... Also, too, like, I don't want to jump on Brody's train of poking holes, but how did he know where he was shooting? Because he knew that he was shooting. I'll give him that. But how do you know where he's aiming to jump in front of the bullet? And don't tell me that he heard when the bullet fired, because he cannot move faster than the bullet.
No.
I mean, even if he heard the bullet whizzing, you're 100% right. I guess he assumed he was trying to shoot Kingpin. Wouldn't it have been great if he jumped in front of Kingpin, but then Vanessa got shot?
Or the bullet's nowhere near there. It's like
that's what I mean. Like I saved you, Vanessa. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I got swimmer's ear. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, he does have radar, so maybe he sensed the radar of the gun and where it was pointed.
At the distance that he was at, the minor adjustment that you're making,
agreed.
Even with no.
No, it's one of the things that we don't get is what I always like in the comics is that they take the time, not always, but they will sometimes take the time to show you how his ability works and how he hears things. So if they would have showed us the bullet sort of coming,
Right.
I do agree. It is definitely a bit of a flaw.
I mean, I do think right before that, the like aspect ratio change and like that was really cool to see him. Like that was cool. I just afterwards thinking about it, I was just like, how this to me really feels like they were in the writer's room and they were cooking, because I do think they're cooking, and someone was like, what if Matt saves Kingpin and gets blood all over his white suit?
Yeah, like the
I don't know
rabbit,
what
like the
happens
rabbit in the
after that.
snowstorm.
Yeah, exactly. Continuing the same motif from the Netflix show with like when they had the white painting thing. A very, very interesting story here to me. Like immediately I am more interested in what's going to happen with these two characters, because I already like the characters, but now knowing everything that's going on between them, now you owe Matt your life publicly. Publicly, you owe Matt your life.
Yeah.
He can't out him now.
So like the way that they are intertwining their lives together, like it's very kind of like Batman and Jokery, which I don't see like Kingpin. Daredevil Kingpin is like kind of like that, but it feels like a little bit more so of like an obsession in this capacity. But I really enjoy it. Like I'm really curious how they're gonna, like, they've kind of tied themselves into this knot with like now their public personas and him being the mayor, so he has to watch like how he looks and stuff, and like it's some very cool implications for what's gonna happen for the finale and how they're gonna kind of set this up for the next season.
No, I absolutely agree. And Daniel's theory is that I think the sound of Dex setting up the shot made Matt see the direction the gun was facing. So he had already had his attention. And look, that doesn't necessarily have to make 100% sense, but it's like, okay, it could be something like that. But
how do you explain to the press, if you're Matt, how do you explain that Matt jumped in front of the bullet? Like how do they explain that he saved Kingpin?
But was that capture? I mean, that's the thing. There was so much chaos in the moment. Like, did anyone actually see what he did? Or, I mean, that might be the question, is like, how many witnesses were there for the actual moment of him jumping in the way?
They made it a point to have no photography, right? That was the whole thing. But you know, they were the center with the spotlight on the dance floor, and he did shove them. So, I mean, somebody had to have noticed that. But did you notice none of the cops shot back?
Yeah.
None of them fired their guns up at the balcony. You know, like nobody
0 out of 10, unrealistic, unwatchable.
It is. Bullets aren't cheap. You know,
I was just going to say, bullets are definitely not
but
affordable.
Here's a more important plot hole that you just reminded me of. Very, very excellent character interaction with Heather and Matt. And Matt is like focusing in on what Kingpin is saying. And she's like, are you listening to me? He's like, yeah. And then he immediately tunes out again.
He's not listening at all. Right.
And then I'm supposed to believe that this whole time that they're in there having a conversation, and you're eavesdropping her, that she's still standing there and she's like just yapping.
There's
no way.
How about when she said, if you're listening to me, what did I just say? And then he tunes her out again.
That's what I'm saying.
Mean, listen, I would love that ability, but
after all that time passes and they come out and we see that Matt is listening to them and she's still standing there, that after that they were just like, all right, that's fine, let's go. Like, there's no way. That was crazy to me.
Nate, the way it was done was almost like when it cut away, she was just like,
like freeze frame at the end of the police squad.
The only thing that would make sense.
That whole scene with Swordmaster, the whole time, as long as it was going, I'm literally in my mind, I'm like, is she just frozen there while this is happening? They're like, there's no way she been like, I'm walking away. Like she was.
How about when she says,
so mad at him?
Yeah, she says, I'm leaving, and he says, you're not going anywhere. And she says, why not? Like, why not? Your response should have been, the hell I'm not. I'm out of here. She's like, you're not going anywhere, Heather. You're staying with me, and I'm dragging you over to Kingpin now.
Well, no, I would have been interested to see like some of Fisk's goons stopping her from leaving and being like, no, the mayor has something. You know, I would like to have her see that Matt was right.
Go find a hotter, blinder lawyer than me. Try it. I think, and then like that would have been calling her bluff. She couldn't have done that.
To the point of how do you explain it in the press? I just assume that the BB report has an interview with him, and she just leans in. She just leans in and says, "What kind of lawyer are you? A really good one." And then he dies.
Blind one.
Yeah. So I think there was some tremendous cinematography in this episode, and just some of the visuals were incredible. Yes, Eric.
I was going to circle back. Nate brought this up a little bit before. And again, part of it is because I do watch these sometimes late at night, so I have to like listen through headphones. And like, my God, the sound design is fantastic on the show. And that one scene where it was like Robert Altman directed some of this episode, like the way we were just sort of tracing through the conversations, and like we were like, you know, as if the mic was sort of like zooming in basically on the different conversations. Love that. And I think it speaks so much to what makes Daredevil stand apart from a lot of the other Marvel properties, because it really is much more like almost like a 70s style, you know, police corruption thriller than anything.
We also haven't seen a lot of him going through a big room filled with people and watching how he has to kind of tune out certain things. He's like, this isn't where I want to go. This is here, because he still can't see, obviously. And I thought it was interesting. It's something that I'm not going to say we've never seen before, but we don't see often.
No,
I just might not remember something
that big shot in there was one of those moments that really made me feel like this is very comic book, like when you open up a panel and it's a big wide shot of a party and there's a couple different conversation bubbles of people talking, but it's all kind of like within the same frame. It was really cool. That, and also the scene with Matt in like when he was talking to the guy that wanted to testify, like just the angle that they shot him at and like the way he was talking, I was like, that's Matt Murdock. That's the Devil Hell's Kitchen right there.
He has no patience for this guy, because he's like, I am 100% sure that you're lying. So
but we're missing the big story here.
Okay.
That we found out who Madison was, and it's not Madison with a Y.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing that it wasn't Madison with a Y.
And also, caramel corn came back. I was very excited that has gotten.
They referenced him.
Yeah. Oh, love it. I want every episode caramel corn.
I hope he's released from prison, and they show him like released from prison, and maybe he takes out one of the bad cops. You know, he's got to have some. He's got to have his heroic arc. So, you know.
Well, as we look ahead towards next week, it's worth noting that our episode 9 recap will not only have Katie back in the fold. We'll do what they used to call back in the 90s a supersized episode. We're going to do a little bit of a longer episode where it'll be all of your regulars that you're used to seeing, and then we'll kind of have a little bit of a revolving door, have some of the other people who've been on during the year pop in and say hello. But the start time will be at noon Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So make sure everybody tunes in to that.
Nope.
I did the math wrong, but that's all right.
Yep.
What time is it in Manitoba? 4. Yeah. So that's what confused me. So yes, 3 p.m. Eastern. See, I don't ever want to tell anything in Eastern time, because if you live in a time zone, you know what the difference is. Even if you,
I would just like to
Mountain Time.
I just like to refer to Eastern time as time. That's the way New Yorkers feel. It's time. You guys are 3 hours before. We're just time.
Okay. And we call our time the time here too. Everybody,
but nobody cares. It's California.
But the different time.
The difference is that here the time is more as day and the time, and you don't have that, and you never will.
2 a.m. Brody is very 2 a.m. Brody is very salty.
You know what? Saturday Night Live is live in New York at 11:30. That's
Yeah,
how
you know when we
it's
can
live.
watch it?
And they play it
8:30.
here. Yep.
That's perfect. We watch it at 8:30.
Nah, it's too early.
Nah,
Too early.
Actually, you're right. It never feels right.
not for me.
Exactly.
So as
it's
we
not the
wind down,
time,
though, you said it's never the time for it.
What a shock.
Well, I wish they still did TV Funhouse. So I agree with Nate on that. If we could still get those Robert Smigel cartoons, there would at least be that. So as we look ahead towards next week, we've thrown a lot of names around. I want each of you to pick only one thing that you think, okay, I expect to see this. It can be Vanessa dying, and that's my thing. But I want each of you to pick one thing. It can be the same as what somebody else says, and we'll go clockwise. Brody, what's something you think we're going to see next week? Feel free to give a joke answer, but then give a real answer after.
I think a member of the Defenders will make a cameo in the episode.
Interesting. Now, by that you mean the Netflix Defenders, right? We're not getting Valkyrie or
No, we're not getting
or
no.
Silver Surfer or Doctor Strange.
No, none of the or the Hulk or any of the rotating cast of Defenders. No, Valkyrie, by the way, classic Defender. And what was the guy? Nightwing, right? You said the guy who looked like Batman.
No, Nightwing is Robin. Nighthawk.
No, who is Nighthawk? Maybe the guy who looked like Batman had Hawk on his chest.
He did look like him. Yeah, but
although the Swordsman was a Defender, so you never know. I think Luke Cage or Jessica Jones. I think at least one of them will make a cameo to fight crime because he's in the hospital. I think they'll show up. They'll be because it's in the news that he was shot. I think someone from the old Netflix shows, whether it's Rosario Dawson, someone's going to show up to the hospital from the Netflix shows. That's my prediction.
This is it's a little bit inside because it's referencing a different show, not this. I am so sure that that's not going to happen that I'll buy you a pizza if it does.
It's a lot of pizza, my friend. I understand.
Yep.
He didn't say from where though. He said
no. Yeah, I'm picking where it's from. I'm gonna get you a gift card to Sparrow, so you can decide to not use it. Eric, what do you think is going to happen in episode 9?
Now, I would have thought Vanessa was actually. I had assumed Kingpin was going to kill Vanessa by the end of the season, so I'm not thinking that anymore. I think Vanessa, if she would have died here. She didn't. So I'm going to put some money on Vanessa surviving, at least till season 2. That being said, I think a few members of the staff might not be making it to next season. I agree. I do think someone from the Defenders, the Netflix universe is going to show up. Maybe
are you including Punisher in that? Because he's not a Defender, but he is from that Netflix universe.
I'm including all Netflix shows, including To All the Boys I Loved Before. I don't think they're going to be very picky, but it will be someone from Netflix New York.
So Stranger Things cast.
Well, no. So by that reasoning, President Frank Underwood could show up and say, "Matt, let me be Frank." You know,
wait.
So
wait.
I
it was a false alarm.
I can't ring the bell this late at night. My kids are sleeping. So, Nate, you notice I hadn't ring the bell all night. So this is
a very subtle ring on my part. I think now this idea that maybe Kingpin's going to have to protect Matt when he's in the hospital. I think that I could see very easily sort of like a spin on what they did at the end of season 3 with Bullseye v Daredevil v Kingpin. They could do sort of like a Funhouse mirror version of that in the hospital. So I'm hoping for that. I think that'd be a cool way to bring all the parties back together for one last ride.
TV Funhouse.
TV Funhouse.
Give me back my show. Nate, what do you think will happen next week? Something. It can be anything that's been said throughout the course of the episode or just something wild.
Caramel corn.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of want another like Daredevil Bullseye fight because the episode 1 was really good, but like just the way it's positioned right now, we'd have to get like a time skip essentially like he got shot pretty bad. Even if they say like it hit the shoulder and went, I mean they can't even say it went through because then it would have hit Kingpin, so it must
Yeah.
be buried in his arm or something. Like,
Yeah.
It looked pretty
I don't-
close
I
to
don't-
his heart too. Like that at
It
first I
would
thought
have
it was
been,
his
yeah.
shoulder, but then with the close up I was
It's
like,
like
oh shit.
it's like right on the chest. It's pretty
Yeah.
close. Yeah. I don't know. Would be cool to see the Defenders. I don't think that's too likely. We might see Frank. We might see
Yeah.
a Punisher. I don't know. This is a really interesting kind of situation that they've got themselves in. Like, you know, I think for sure we're going to see Fisk figure out or be told that of what Vanessa did. And then, you know, the conversation between Matt and Wilson is going to be very interesting whenever he wakes up from the hospital bed. So I don't know. I think overall, I would say my prediction is that we're going to get a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I think we'll get a little bit of resolution, but mostly kind of a lot of setup for what will be the kind of new status quo for the next season that comes.
Yeah, no. I think that I think that one of the things we'll be talking about is that we can't believe we're going to have to wait however long it'll be, and it's not going to be that soon. And Daniel is onto something. Will we see Matt hallucinating Foggy or other dead characters while he's dealing with being shot? So could we see Elektra? Could we see Foggy? You know, I don't know. I
honestly hate that.
Well,
hate the
here's
that
what that would be
right.
like. It would be like
Hate it.
any season finale of The Sopranos, where the last episode
Right.
is Tony having a fever dream and talking fish, and you know, you're just like, oh boy, that second to last episode was great. I don't know what this is, but we will see Daniel, and we will see shortly. We'll be doing the show again in 8 days, so make sure to join us.
Christian?
Yes, Mr. Brody.
The hallucination happened on The Walking Dead in season 9 when Rick was dying. He imagined his friend, his best friend on the show, being back alive, who was played by John Bernthal. And so there's a scene where he's hallucinating seeing John Bernthal in the car with him. And so that, since we're talking about John Bernthal, that hallucination thing, I don't think Foggy's going to be back because they said he'll be back for season 2. And I think it would be silly to have him back in a hallucination if that's the way they're bringing him back in season 2. If they're bringing him back as a conscience or as a ghost or a figment of his imagination, I think it'd be silly to do that in the finale and then do it all next season.
They'll bring him back in season 3 of Hit Monkey. That he'll be a ghost and he'll help the Hit Monkey.
I think in season 2 we'll see him because either we'll get flashbacks of him or it'll be like Matt's memory or something. But I think he's gonna follow this thread of the case that Foggy was on that got him killed as kind of like the thread that will eventually allow Matt to like fully take the Kingpin down, I'm assuming, through something that Vanessa did that then she tried to cover up. So I think that's why we'll see him for sure next season.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense, and we'll see it. And you're talking about John Bernthal, but I went to the movies the other night. Eric Conner was there, and there were multiple trailers with John Bernthal. So he's a busy guy, and and one of them he has a beard, and the other one he doesn't. So he's playing 2 very different characters. One of them shaves. In any case, that will be all the time we have for this week. Thanks to everybody who stayed up late with us, and everybody else just enjoying this at the regular time. Just makes it harder to interact with us. But you can always leave comments on the archive YouTube videos, or you can reach me on social media at ChristianDMZ, and look forward to continuing the conversation next week when we look back at all of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. But until next week, Mr. Brody, where are you likely to be found?
Find me on the Brooklyn Boys podcast at David Brody, Brody. That's enough for now. Find me on social media at David Brody all over the place.
And Mr. Conner.
Besides looking for Brody's Honora-like classmates from Brooklyn High, you can find me a few places. Film Courage. I did a couple interviews for them. If you want to watch me talk about all of Daredevil season 1 through 3 in 8 minutes. I think you got 8 minutes to spare. Check it out. I did put a link in the YouTube chat. And Friday is what won this week with the wonderful Katie Hampton. So come on by.
And what was this that you sent to me? It seemed yeah,
it was in response to the previous image is about the city council. And so I wanted to say here, now work closely with the city council. And the next shot is look at me. I was at the city council tonight.
The city council.
But yes, proclamation for the arts. So yes, I do deal with the city council in a very similar way as Kingpin, just not as.
Is that Marjorie Taylor Greene, two to your right?
I actually that's me. That's me, Brody. I know we look very similar.
No, I know. I know which one you're talking about. The
two
one
to Eric's right is a blonde woman. Take your glasses off.
You know what? For the sake of the conversation, we'll just say yes.
No. Stephanie. No, Stephanie.
I didn't say second from the right. I said two to your right. Okay.
In any case, so that's what's going on around Burbank for those in the know. Nate Miller, what would you like people to know on the way out?
I would like people to know that there is a fantastic 8-minute video about Eric's thoughts on the first 3 seasons of Daredevil on Netflix, and that I think everyone should watch that, especially before the finale next week. So you're really like prepared to catch all of the themes and stuff. And otherwise, other than that, you can find me all over the internet with Dog Like Nate with 2 G's.
Yes, and before the end of the month, I'll be doing a video getting everybody ready for Thunderbolts Asterisk, talking about those characters right here on Geekscape. And of course, you can find my personal podcast, The Blattcast, BLADTCAST. We did an episode remembering Val Kilmer, and then another celebrating the 50th anniversary of Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic album. So if any of those things sound interesting, go to the Blattcast, BLADTCAST. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to David Brody, Eric Conner, Nate Miller, and thank you, Katie, for being with us in spirit. But we will see you next week, and we'll see all of you next time. And as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!